Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pail, steel toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure.
Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I pull the John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
Oh boy, we have a lot to unpack in this one. Welcome in, everybody. It's Jimmy Toscano here with the real Bobby Manning and the one and only A. Sherrod Blakely. After a 133-131 Celtics loss to the Indiana Pacers, this was an unreal game from start to about the finish. I think you have to backtrack a few seconds because, unfortunately, a lot went down that we're going to try to break down here for everybody. I know people are filing in, and there's probably a lot of heated people here watching the show after a controversial overturned call on a Jaylen Brown baseline jumper that originally
And
was
we got already from Joe Mazzulla here, Jimmy. Said Buddy Hield told him he fouled Brown.
Yeah, well, so spoiler alert, Bobby. Geez, I was trying to bring us into this here. I'm just kidding. I imagine everybody watching the show knows what happened, but Jaylen Brown goes up for a potentially game winning game. Yeah. Game
Go ahead, yeah.
Baseline.
Go ahead basket.
Go ahead jumper.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead basket and gets called. Foul gets called on him. The play gets challenged by the Pacers, and the replay specifically clearly shows that Buddy Hield, while going up to block Jaylen Brown's shot, while he did touch the ball, his arm hit the back of Jaylen Brown's head. Plain as day. The broadcast saw it. Scalabrine was, never been more sure of himself that Jaylen Brown was going to line for two, and sure enough, the refs overturned the call. We don't know why yet. I imagine we're going to get some answers. I would hope. We don't know if there's going to be a pool report from this one, Sherrod, but there is going to be the last 2-minute report that will come up the next day. A lot of good that's going to do, right? It's not going to change the outcome, and so frustrating one. We'll start there, Bobby. And there's a lot more to this game and to the ending than this, but obviously this is the thing that everybody wants to talk about right now. So, Bobby, your thoughts?
Yeah, certainly. Buddy Hield admitting he fouled him. It's tough to get a better affirmation than that on what happened on that play. The refs obviously said in the review there that the contact with the ball happened first, from behind there. I can't pull up exactly what the call was initially on the floor, but obviously they looked at it and went with the block, however they called that. Brown just ends up missing there. So it's a tough call, certainly, especially looking back on it over and over again here. But you go down the other end, you have an opportunity to stop and force overtime. I know you didn't love the contest, Jimmy, getting in too close by Porzingis on Mathurin. Pretty clear foul call there, and you end up losing the game at the free throw line. A pretty good lob play after, with next to no time on the clock for Cornette to potentially tie it thereafter. But that was just 3 plays, and what honestly was one of the first times this season I felt like the Celtics looked down on the competition and let their foot off the gas and relax. The defense in that third quarter, just atrocious. Would they give up 40 there? I know that's what Joe's probably going to talk about, but he's pretty upset about the call too, obviously, looking at his press conference there. But Haliburton goes down in this game, and you get outscored by about double digits the rest of the way. You lose this third quarter by 11, tie the fourth. It's not great. You got to play better defense than that. I thought some of the schemes they went to didn't work very well, and especially on the glass and in transition and stuff. They got out-hustled down the stretch of this game, ignored key guys on the Indiana side that burned them. This wasn't a great performance, and it's always the case, but I think especially in this one, this had a lot more to do with the middle portion of the game than how the game ended.
Sure, I want to go before we break down the whole game. I do want to focus on just the end here. So, just your thoughts on the last few plays, the Celtics' decision to go to Jaylen Brown on those back-to-back possessions there. Your thoughts on Brown's shot selection and I guess the call or the non-call.
Well, first and foremost, it shouldn't have came down to those last 2 or 3 minutes. The Celtics, even without Jason Tatum, should have won this game. When you look at the missed free throws, you look at the missed opportunities, you look at the blown assignments defensively. There's countless mistakes that they made in the second half that put them in the predicament where you needed the referees to see what 99.9% of the rest of us saw, which was Jaylen Brown get hit on the head. Now, was it a smack him upside the head, knock him on his ass type of foul? No, but the multiple replays that I saw on TV and the ones that the broadcasters who were watching the game saw, and I'm not talking about Scal, I'm talking about both Indiana, they're radio folks as well as the Celtics. Everyone pretty much thought that Jaylen was going to the line to shoot a couple of free throws. And the foul on Porzingis at the end, that was a no-brainer. I mean, he clearly was in the guy's space, and he fouled. And that was a legit call. But to me, and again, I've been singing this tune for a while, and I wish that at some point the NBA would step in and do something about this. When referees make mistakes, that means they're human. I get it. But there are certain mistakes that are blatantly obvious, just like when you hit a guy between his legs as a player, you're going to get fined for that, right? But if, let's say, I'm reaching for a rebound and there's a scrum down there and I just accidentally maybe elbow you down there, you're probably not going to get a fine for that because it just happened to go that way. Missing this call it's egregious. This is how do you miss this call? When literally everyone else who saw that call, who had a comment on it, whether you were for the Pacers or against the Pacers, felt that he fouled them. And the man who got away with the call admitted to Mazzola and those guys that he
That's
fouled.
Unreal.
And so when the 2-minute report comes out and it says that, we got that call wrong, there should be more than just a my bad for the ref. There should be some punitive punishment for blowing a call like this.
And this is the problem with not just the NBA, but the NFL now too. They've basically scared players and coaches and everybody, and they fined them enough where these guys feel like they can't say anything, and there are no repercussions. What was the repercussions for the officials in the Cowboys-Lions game when the officials blew that one, right? And the Lions players after the game, they knew exactly who reported it and when and why and how, and they still felt like they couldn't say boo about it because they were scared about what was going to happen to them if they said the wrong thing. The NBA, I don't know. Jaylen Brown hopefully said he might say something after the game, but again, is he going to get fined for telling the truth?
Yes.
So it's like exactly. So you don't even know what you can say anymore, but it's pretty obvious that was a missed call, and it's one thing to miss it live. But to go to a review,
and the call on the floor
and overturn it, and you had to overturn it on top of it. So
that's always frustrated me, Jimmy, with the NBA replay. I feel like NFL leans more toward the play on the field. I don't know if that's necessarily the rule in the NBA, Sherrod. It probably should be that the call on the court gets the benefit of the doubt there, and there's certainly nothing inconclusive about that replay that says no foul. Plenty of contact there on the head to suggest a foul, and I'm sure, as we mentioned in the 2-minute report, that they're going to say it was a foul there, but it's tough for me to focus on that too much in a game like this. We're
not going to focus on it for the whole time, obviously, but we do have to talk about it, Bobby, because that's what everyone's hot on right now. So we're not going to start.
The elephant in the room.
We're not going to go back to we're not going to go back to the beginning of the third quarter and break down like the defense, right, to start the show, but we will get to all that. But to end the show, I mean, Joe Mazzulla is obviously hot about it. I guarantee you every single player that gets interviewed, the first question they're going to be asked is about this play. And so we have to talk about it. So I think it was good for us to get it out of the way. Now, is it the reason they lost?
No.
Not the only reason they lost.
No, it was a factor, but it wasn't the only reason.
Of course. And like you said earlier, Sherrod, it shouldn't have gotten to that point. One of the things, and again, if we're going to talk about the foul that wasn't, we should talk about the shot. I hated the shot to begin with. And when the whistle was blown, I was like, wow, that's a bailout before I saw the replay. I didn't think either possession from Jaylen Brown was a smart one. And not just because he missed, but both shots were with people in his face, off balance, rushed. And it almost feels, again, remind me, this is supposed to be the best starting lineup in the NBA. And I know they didn't have Tatum tonight, which is a big part of that, but there are options on this team. Why does it just assume that the ball has to go to Jaylen Brown? It was like the broadcast basically said, well, I guess you're going to Jaylen Brown here. Why? Why is that the case?
Here's the problem I have with that. And you know, Jimmy, I'm not a big analytics guy. I understand their value and they do have a purpose. But the one analytics number that I do tend to pay attention to, particularly with the Celtics, is who performs in the clutch. When games are tight, late in the game, who's their best clutch player? And the eye tests and the analytics tell me the same thing. It's Derek freaking White. Freaking White. He is your best player in the clutch. I don't understand why you are not running sets that give him the ball with 10 seconds or less on the shot clock. That's what I want, because I know in that moment he's going to make the right decision. That doesn't mean he's always going to score, but he's going to make the right basketball play. And he's been with this team long enough. He's proven himself many, many times that he is the best fit for that. And it drives me mad when I see that. And I love Jalen. He's a great player. Look, all the praise that Jalen has earned through the years is just that. He's earned that. But damn it, when I got the game on the line, I need one basket or one play that's going to get us over the hump. I want Derek White to make that call. Why? Because he is literally statistically and eye test wise the best player with ball handling skills in that situation. I don't understand it. I keep telling myself that maybe Joe was just giving guys this, equal opportunity, democratic way of doing this, and that he's saving Derek White for the playoffs, and Derek's going to be the guy in late game situations in the playoffs. And there's a part of me that says that would be really, really a very utopian-like way of looking at this, but that ain't reality. This is who they are. They're going to lean on Tatum and Brown in those end of the game, late game situations, because for 3 quarters, they've been either the first, second, third best player on the floor. But when the game is when all the chips are at the center of the table and I got one hand to play, I want that hand to be the one that Derek White is playing.
Yeah, and honestly, all 3 of their biggest concerns, Sherrod, honestly reared their head in this game. You're down 2 rotation players. You didn't get great play from the bench in this one. I thought Pritchard was solid, but other guys
Pritchard got outsparked tonight. I hate to say it. He got outsparked.
He got by his doppelganger. Yep.
Yeah, Indiana's bench owned them tonight. So that's one concern out of this game. Second, the lack of free throw attempts, certainly in this one, another issue for the Celtics. They just continue to struggle to exploit that against this Indiana team. They finished with 29, but early in that first half, it took them a while to get going there, and then they missed 9. So you couldn't beat them at the free throw line. That was certainly another area where you could have taken advantage of Indiana in this game. And then the late game offense, as you mentioned there, Sherrod. Why stop running offense in those situations? And I know Missoula called the timeout to rein in one possession there, but Brown, again, after that, comes right out after seemingly hurting himself on that play. I know it was his left arm, but goes right into a spot up, pull up 2 in Neesmith's face, misses it, the play before the foul play there.
Right, yeah, the last 2 possessions that they had.
Yeah, and then the Pacers go down the floor, score, and then Brown comes back up and takes that shot with 3 guys around him.
And here's the thing. I want to be absolutely crystal clear when I say this. My issue isn't with how Jalen played. My issue is that they didn't go to Derek White. That's my issue. It's about Derek White and how in those late game critical situations, you don't lean on the one player who has consistently delivered in those moments, who from an analytics standpoint delivers in those moments. From watching this damn team play, delivers in those moments. And it's that for me is where my frustration is at with this one. It isn't the fact that the refs screwed the Celtics down the stretch. It isn't the fact that Indiana got some home cooking type calls. That stuff happens. So what? It is what it is. My issue is the Celtics, you need to focus on what you can control, and you absolutely can control who is carrying you down the stretch. And yes, Jalen had a great game, and he made big shots, and he was efficient, and he did all those things. But why should you just go to that when you got a guy who, in this moment, he's your best player? And until he goes through a stretch where he's not that guy, I want to lean on Derek in those moments. Yeah, he's giving me no reason not to lean on him.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, even if it's not Derek White, it shouldn't just be automatically Jaylen Brown or automatically Jason Tatum. There should be options. There should be option A, option B. Run a play, get a guy open off the inbounds. They're great off
Tatum's
inbound
in the
plays.
chat.
Tatum's in the chat. There he is. I'll read this since it's up here. Bobby, the point is it was a blatant blown call that potentially decided the game. Everything else from before that doesn't matter when the ref swings the outcome of the game. Sure, bad shot. I don't care. So that's Tatum. That is our chat Tatum's opinion. I'm sure it's not shared by everybody, and it does matter. It does matter what happens up to that point. Sure, that in a vacuum, yes, that matters. But everything that leading up to that point matters too. And
if they shoot better from the free throw line, we're probably talking about a different game. If they executed 2-3 more plays better on defense where they got to stop instead of giving up a bucket, it's a different game. So everything that stuff does matter.
And then again,
it all matters.
And White missed some shots tonight, but he's still doing the right things out there, especially late in the game. Porzingis missed some bunnies tonight, but give Porzingis a shot with the ball in the post. He was shooting over guys left and right tonight.
All the way down the stretch, he just hit everything again. And when he drew fouls, he drained the free throws.
He was playing bully ball.
It's just incomprehensible to not run offense in these late game situations. Just fly up the court and launch up a shot without even passing it once. And that's on Brown. I know you'll get on Joe, and he certainly could step in these situations, but we know what his mindset and approach is. Let these guys handle it now so they can learn a mentality for later. And Brown in that situation just took 2 awful shots, and you can nitpick the foul call there. It's a bad shot. There's no way around it. I think 3 guys were flying around him, healed from behind, and Mathurin in front of him, and I think another guy was coming in from the side. They're just brutal shots in that situation. And this is another game, Jimmy, where they lose in crunch time. I think they've only lost 1 game outside of crunch time all year, and their 7 other losses here came down the stretch of games. So they have good numbers in those situations. I feel like they've overall played well in those spots this year, but you have just as many situations effectively here where they haven't. The ones that come down to a possession or 2 late. I think I'll probably parse through some of those here tonight to see how many of them actually came down in the last couple of possessions here. But you had something that was working there, Jimmy, with Porzingis.
Yep.
And letting him attack mismatches, and you completely bail out the Pacers by playing one-on-one offense in those situations. That's not what got you in the position to win this game.
Right. When you start to play head down, hero ball, ISO mode, it's again, you're not going to get away with it. I want to follow up with a question. You're talking about how the Celtics got away from things that were working for them and maybe went in the wrong direction late in games. Is this a Joe loss? I'll ask you first, Sherrod. Is this one that we can pin on Mazzulla? Not just for the last few possessions, but you can go back to the beginning of the fourth quarter. I don't necessarily agree with the lineup choices that he went with in that fourth quarter. I know you got to give guys rest, but do you have to give Brown, Porzingis, Holiday, those guys all have to sit together for an extended period of time? Could those have maybe been spaced out a little bit?
In theory, you could have.
But the way they let McConnell run around them, I mean.
But Jimmy, here's the thing. In this particular game, when you're missing 2 rotational players with Hauser and Tatum out, I think you probably do some funky things with your rotation that you normally wouldn't do because you'd have those guys available and the domino effect that having them available creates. So I don't know if I would put this one on Joe individually. I think that there was a bit of blame pie to go around with this one. Certainly. Yeah, I think, Joe gets some of that. I think Jalen, who had
hold on, Sherrod. Let's play.
All right.
Let's play the blame pie. Here we are. We've got an updated blame pie for this loss specifically, guys. As you can see, we've added Adam Silver to the mix. We've added the referee, the official who blew the call. He's there in the blue. We've got Mazzulla. We've got, I don't know why Porzingis is on the blame. Oh, yeah, because of the foul at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So we've got a few options here. Take your slice, Sherrod.
I would say if I had to give a big slice to any one of these folks. Wait, is that Z?
That's me, yes.
What the hell is he?
You know what?
He barely got on the floor.
He gets blamed because he's part of that rotation he's part of that lineup that shouldn't have been in there in the fourth quarter. That screwed things.
You know what?
He actually played
if I had to give the biggest slice of this to, I would probably give it to Mazzulla. Just because, again, I don't think he was fully to blame, but I think there are certain buttons that he neglected to push that might have been key to them getting over this.
It's interesting, too. Some of the looks they went to in the zone, I thought, allowed Pacers to get on the offensive glass. You certainly weren't having any success ignoring certain guys. I know you had the back and forth there between Andrew Nembhard and Joe. It sounded like that was stemming from the Celtics kind of ignoring him out there with Luke Cornett through those stretches, and Nembhard didn't kill them, but other guys did when they played away from them. Mathurin at the 3-point line in this one was amazing. He had his shot going, and not enough coverage on him as he got going here in this game. Other guys, Turner on the offensive glass, Jalen Smith on those post-ups hurt them at points. So they were off balance all night defensively, and they couldn't find an answer. So that's probably what you pin on Joe.
So are you taking the Joe slice? Or what slice are you taking?
Probably the biggest.
I got to get this blame pie off the screen at some point.
Probably the biggest.
Just eat the damn pie, Bobby. Come on.
He probably gets the biggest. I mean, Jalen, he's right there with Joe, though. I mean, it's a phenomenal scoring night, right? And it's one of the best we've seen from him in terms of just hitting tough shots and getting to the line and dominating mismatches. But you go into the fourth quarter, and I don't know what he finished with, but he went into the fourth quarter with 1 assist and 5 turnovers.
We got Jalen's stat line. I'll toss it up here. He had a 40-point night.
17 for 26, 40 points. I can't give him a huge slice of blame play because he literally kept them in the game.
I'm not giving him the blame. He doesn't get the blame pie, but he deserves to be on in the pie because of the shot selection decision making late in the game. It's not his fault that the call was overturned. And maybe he.
How about the bench? They're up there too. Put him on.
Well, I think Svi was he's representing
the face.
Yeah, he's the
even
face.
though he came in and got 2 offensive rebounds, but those were tough.
That's messed up that he's the face considering he played the least amount of minutes.
By the way, those
other than Delano Banton.
Those were also in his 16th game, his first 4 free throw attempts of the year. So he probably hasn't been.
He missed one, I think, right?
He missed 2.
There you go. So that's why he's getting the blame pie. But to me, it is a Joe game, and it's for all the reasons you guys mentioned. And it's not just the final few plays or anything like that. They got into a bit of a track meet, Bobby, again, and that is what they didn't do on That's
Saturday. Why John didn't show up tonight.
Exactly. This is exactly what they should not have done that second half.
They couldn't slow the game down.
3-point shootout started to happen, and it's hard to go toe-to-toe with these guys, man. That's why they're the top of the offensive efficiency list, and they're historically good at it. You can't fight fire with fire in that situation, and the Celtics got away. And again, maybe we're seeing a little bit of Jason Tatum's value in another area on the defensive side of things, right? Because we do know what he's capable of at points when he does focus on that defensive end, and the Celtics didn't have that tonight. Now, we'd be remiss not to mention that the Pacers lost their MVP player in the middle of this one, and Tyrese Haliburton. And we don't know the extent of that injury. We're obviously hoping for the best because we don't want to see anybody go down, especially an electric player like him, and a favorite, I think, of a lot of NBA fans. And so he left the game in the second, pretty ugly. Just did basically a split, and really, I think what they call a strained left hamstring. It was the official injury designation. So I guess we'll have to find out what grade strain that is, but he had to be carried off the court, and they even put a towel over his head. So it was sad to see that happen, but the door was wide open for the Celtics at that point.
Yeah,
they went up 11 right after that.
Yeah, and then what happened in that second half? The Pacers go on their run. McConnell comes into the game, and he
caught them off guard.
He starts a track meet out there. He's running laps around Porzingis. I mean, if you want to put Porzingis on the blame pie, that'd be one aspect of it. Was the defensive end.
Yeah, and that's what Indiana that's something that Rick Carlisle has recognized in their scouting report that causes the Celtics problems. When they run their offense and they get that matchup where McConnell is being guarded by Porzingis, it's hell for Porzingis to try to keep up with him. And TJ does what TJ does. He either makes them pay with a bucket at the rim, which should never happen, or a short jumper, or he finds someone else because the Celtics are scrambling to try to keep him from just running all over the damn place. This is we're going to lock in on the officiating and the impact that had on this game, but there were troubling signs well before that the Celtics needed to address that those things put them in a position where it was a game when, frankly, when Haliburton went out, that was when you should have put your the back heel on their neck and just put this team away and just absolutely batter them. And that didn't happen.
I thought the worst stretch of the game was the end of the third there. And Joe's talked about the end of quarters. They had a pretty bad end of the second on Saturday. That could have cost them, but they give up a healed three. Porzingis drops a rebound out of bounds, and they get a top and alley-oop that tied the game. So a nice 5-0 push for Indy there. Jalen Smith blocked Jalen, and Brissett took an awful foul in the backcourt after the block there. So they get 2 free throws off of that. Brown turns it over on the inbounds right after that. I don't know what the hell happened there, but they give it right back to Indy, and then McConnell hits another 2. So Indy takes a 4-point lead there on a 7-0 push. So that, as much as the end of the fourth, cost you the game too. They had some just brutal stretches defensively in this game. The turnovers were out of control. How many did they end up with? 15.
15 or
So you had a nice little stretch at the end of December where you weren't turning it over as much, and they got out of control with it there too. I mean, there's just reasons up and down why you lost this game. And when Haliburton goes down, I want to look at his on-off numbers. But
they were -4. I mean, with him on the floor in this game, and it was limited minutes. So it's not like his presence was absolutely getting it done.
But this is a team, Sherrod, that I feel like relies on him more than any other team relies on their star. I mean, we remember when he sat in Boston, the Celtics beat them by 50. So he goes down, and you have a golden opportunity from the shock alone on the other side of seeing that injury for Indiana to extend the lead. And they did. But then they just came out in the third, Jimmy, and I can't think of any other reason why they slipped up there other than, Haliburton's out, we're good.
Yeah, they just thought Indiana was going to roll over. And I don't know what the hell made them think that, because this team, the way they're built, the way they play with or without Haliburton, that's just not who they are. This coach, the way he coaches teams, that's not what Rick does. His teams don't just show up and suffer, setback, and call it a day. They keep fighting. And again, we go back to the blame pie. That's where your coach has to tell you, if he doesn't tell you, he has to show you the importance and value of, okay, this is our moment to put this damn game away. I know we got a quarter and some change left to play, but this moment we need to get dirty. We need to be feisty. We need to put this team in their place. We're the best team in the damn NBA. Now it's time to show it. We can't talk about it. We got to show it now. Right. And they didn't. They didn't have whatever mojo they needed to remind them that this Indiana team may be down their best player, but they are wounded. They're a wounded team, and wounded. Those are some of the scariest opponents you can face, because you literally have no idea how they're going to come. They have nothing to lose at that point, and that's a scary opponent.
Remember Saturday, Sherrod, the physicality Boston played with offensively, and they had moments in this game, but this Indiana team is so bad defensively. Again, you can get a mismatch on any play with any guy. And I felt like they took Hield out of this game attacking him. He had a pretty rough night. But Mathurin, that's a guy you probably could have attacked more and made him work and fatigued him so he wouldn't kill you on the offensive end. I felt like they let other guys on the lineup up and down there just go free offensively. I mean, defensively. And when you're running offense that's just attacking head on, you're not putting guys in actions. You're not making the defense work. And that's the story of this game for me, is that they weren't able to make some of the guys further down the lineup work there, like, Brown or Mathurin or some of the guys off their bench. That's the difference in this game, especially in the second units. And obviously, you're putting bench units out there, Jimmy, that don't have the same kind of facilitating and scoring ability that you'd have at full strength. I think that's pretty obvious. A big part of this loss is probably missing Hauser and Tatum alone. But you still had Brown, you still had Holiday, you still had White, as Sherrod mentions. White definitely underutilized in this game. To be able to make guys work and foul and just be uncomfortable.
I thought this was a really good Holiday game. I didn't think this was
that was one of his best games.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you talk about other options tonight, at least, Holiday is an option. White, to me, tonight, offensively, he didn't have it, which is fine. And maybe that was part of the reason why they were pretty dead set on going to Brown. Brown got them to that point in the game, and they were going to either win it or lose it with Brown. I didn't like the shot selection on his last shot. Again, foul aside, he dribbled it basically into the corner and then had to rush a shot up with, guys in his face. So That's the knock on Brown. It's not the 40 points and everything that he did to get them there. But I just think that there were other options. Now, if you want to really talk
He
about
had
it,
1 assist, Jimmy, through 3 quarters.
but and again, you know what? And I've said this, and I don't want to have an assist discussion tonight because we've killed that over the last month or two. He's not a passer. He's not a point guard. He's not a distributor. He's not a facilitator. Let's stop trying to make him one and getting upset when he isn't. Jaylen Brown should score you 40 points before he should give you 10 assists. So if we can all just be happy with that, then we can move forward and not get into these debates about if he's a good passer or not. That's not his game.
Right.
His game is to score 40 points and dunk on your head. So everyone should just be happy when he does that and not worry about the hockey assists and the potential assists and try to justify him being this great passer. He's not, and that's okay.
Right, and you're right, Jimmy. The thing I would have liked to have seen, and the reason I keep bringing Derek White's name up is because Derek is a great facilitator, setup guy for his teammates, and that was my point with Derek, that he should have been more involved in that final play. I would love to have seen him and Jaylen run some type of pick and roll action or some action where Derek was attacking and Jaylen would be in position where his defender would either stay with Jaylen or converge on Derek White, which would allow Derek to do what he does well and give Jaylen a chance to do what he does well, particularly well this night, which was make shots. That was my issue with Jaylen. Jaylen always gets in trouble when he dribbles too much or when he decides that I'm going to shoot come hell or high water, even if there are 3 defenders. I mean, you go back and look at those shots down the stretch, none of them were great looks. And if you go back and look at the way he'd been playing for the most part, he was getting great looks and making Indiana pay for that. So if they're not giving you great looks, maybe you shouldn't take that shot. Maybe you should, I don't know, kick it to the guy who's top of the key wide open named Derek White, who at that point was more than overdue to knock down an open shot if he got an opportunity to. But again, I would have liked to have seen Derek more involved in late game activity and action with Jaylen, taking advantage of his skills as a setup man / playmaker and making the most of Jaylen's, having an obviously really good night scoring the ball.
Right. And the other thing we haven't really touched upon yet. And again, I don't, this was a great game. I mean,
yeah, it was great.
Tatum out, Haliburton out. These guys were going toe to toe. The fourth quarter was super entertaining. I think it did come down to the bench ultimately, Bobby. When you look at the production from the Pacers bench tonight, that was the difference. I mean, they were the ones who really stepped up in their star's absence. So you go down the line, Mathurin, McConnell, and Hield. I mean, those 3 guys greatly outplayed anybody that came off the Celtics bench tonight. And again, they were missing a couple players, but I don't care.
So this is an interesting discussion a month out from the trade deadline. Do you have enough depth here if you're down 1 or 2 guys in the playoffs, particularly when you're not even sure if your top end depth is ready for the postseason between Hauser, Cornette, and Pritchard, who don't have a long run of playoff success. Pritchard has that 2022 run where he played, but Hauser and Cornette haven't played playoff basketball at all. And then down the line, you'd be very worried if any of those guys got into a playoff situation.
You got to be healthy. If they're not healthy, it's over.
Right, but you do potentially need one guy who could be insurance. And that's what Mike Muscala was last year, right? If Rob was going to go down, their plan was to put him in the mix, and it never happened.
Everybody drink Muscala reference.
No, but I mean, a month out from the deadline, seeing a game like this, I think, is important. And probably a reason why the Celtics rest in a place like this is, can your depth step up and sustain with multiple guys out? And obviously Tatum's an extreme example. If Tatum's down, you're done. But, Hauser going down, you put Banton in that first half, and he was a disaster. 3 quick fouls. I think he had a miss inside. They couldn't go back to him again. And then Svi, played with some energy there, but a couple free throw misses. So that was tough. Cornette 1 of 4. He was okay. Nothing great.
Easy.
At times bad defensively. So this wasn't a great matchup for him. And you might see Indiana in the playoffs. So all of a sudden you don't have a depth center who can give you good minutes there. So it's going to be interesting, Jimmy, and we've had this debate over and over again. They're probably fine at full strength. I don't think they need to make a move. But what can you anticipate happening down the line? You probably need to add that.
But we've kind of talked about the fact that they can't really.
So
the way that it shakes out, they'd have to trade 3 or 4 of their bench guys, including Pritchard, or I mean, that's what I think you've kind of
Yeah, if you're gonna go and
summarized it
get
that
a,
way.
if you're
And
gonna
by
go,
the way, I have no qualms with trading Pritchard. My point is, you're going to trade 3 or 4 guys on your bench. You already have a thin bench. I mean, they're going to be looking for guys off the street at some point if they trade too many more of these guys.
right, I don't think you can do that. And I know Jake Fisher threw out there interesting Chris Boucher. I think like Olenek, I think like Isaiah Stewart, just too expensive.
Too expensive, right?
You can't give up a Pritchard for a center. So you're looking for, I think, the Grant level TP guy, and it's gonna be like a Fontecchio, Conchar. It's gonna be one of those guys that you really never even heard of or think about, but might be important if they can give you some minutes there on the back end. But I think what's tough for the Celtics right now, Sherrod, is that they really do like these bench guys, and many of them have been playing well. Honestly, I thought Brissett got off to a really good start in this game, and then missed free throws and shots killed him. So it's a fine line, right?
That's an energy guy, though, right?
Well,
I mean, he's going to come in there and play defense and grab some rebounds and try to keep some plays alive, second chance opportunities. But he's not a guy, Bobby or Sherrod, that's going to come in like, Mathurin did tonight and drain threes in your face and drop 26 on your head out of nowhere and fill in commendably for the star player and basically win them the game.
The problem for the bench guys for the Celtics, I think the biggest problem is that they come here, they look who's ahead of them, and they see, okay, he does X, Y, Z, 1, 2, and 3. So my role is going to be this. And when the opportunity to step outside of that role, like tonight, they don't seem comfortable making that change. Like if I am Brissett and I know that Tatum is out, I know that Sam is out, I'm probably going to look for ways to get some points when I'm out there. And that doesn't mean I'm taking a bunch of shots from 3-point range, but that hustle plays that I make, when I grab the offensive rebound and I kick it back out, or the defensive rebound, that I will, I might start the break myself and get it up the half court to Drew quick, and then we run our offense quicker, and maybe I'll get it back. I'm going to do something different, and in theory, because what they need from me in that moment is different. And there seems to be a disconnect when these players have opportunities to play more significant minutes to tweak whatever role that they're usually in to the role that they need to be in. They seem to struggle making that transition. Whereas look at a team
my point. These are all good complementary guys, Sherrod.
Yeah,
but they're not depth fill-in guys if you do lose a piece or two here in the playoffs.
If you want a big meal, these are nice side dishes, but this is not the steak. This is not the caviar. This is not the leftover, And
we've said that with Cornette, too, in all our debates. Like, when he's your third depth guy, it's awesome, and I think he's really good. But if he's filling in for Horford and Porzingis, you're done. So, listen, Jimmy, you're right. You have a top-heavy team. That's how you built this roster this year. Great. Everybody understands that, but I also think you have to position yourself if something did happen for even one game in the playoffs, right? Some guys, just recovering from a bumper bruise the night before and just really can't give it a go, or he's really struggling to play through something. You don't have guys that you can turn to further down the lineup to step up and fill in those positions. At least 2 down. Like 1 down, you can probably survive outside of Brown and Tatum. 2 guys like you were tonight gets really difficult because you're playing Shvee, you're playing Banton, you're playing Brissett big minutes. So this is a tough spot for those guys who I think have overall fared well this year. But tonight against a tricky matchup.
It's a good team. They're just a good team. We
don't
need to
matchup for them too, Jimmy.
Well, why? Because they just play up tempo.
They space you out, the up tempo, and the way they guard too.
Yeah.
I know Carlisle was talking about Sherrod, but they did some really good things defensively on Saturday that I felt like tricked the Celtics, who want to drive and kick. But the Pacers are leaving that rim open more often than not. And the Celtics don't feel super comfortable taking that, it feels like. They want to be able to drive and kick and produce threes. Joe and if we're going to put anything on Joe in a situation like this, it's the adaptability to be able to go inside aggressively. And credit to Brown, right? He did that on Saturday. He did that tonight. But no one else on the roster looks super comfortable going to that outside of Porzingis when they got him the ball. So this is a weird matchup, Jimmy. This would be a very challenging playoff series for them.
Oh my gosh,
depending on
Haliburton. Worst case scenario. Yeah. So, Sherrod, you mentioned entrees, and that got me thinking about our good friends at HelloFresh. Let me get that comment off there. Our good friends at HelloFresh, guys. So HelloFresh.com/CLNS free. You want to use the code CLNS free and get free breakfast for life, guys. What is HelloFresh? You get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Yesterday was Sunday. Let's be honest, you sat on the couch and you watched football all day and you didn't go food shopping. Well, that's okay, because if you had HelloFresh, you'd get your food delivered right to your door, so you wouldn't have to go waste a Sunday at the supermarket and fight through lines and deal with annoying people. You wouldn't have to do any of those things, Sherrod, right? I mean,
Exactly.
that's a
Facts, my
veteran
dog.
move. Yeah, backs my dog. Exactly. So you want to enjoy your Sundays. You want the food delivered to your door, healthy, not the takeout trash that isn't gonna fall in line with your New Year's resolutions and your new diet and everything like that. So HelloFresh comes in. It makes saving time your breeziest resolution with quick, convenient recipes delivered right to you. You can choose your meals and select your delivery date. They handle the meal planning and shopping. All you have to do is open your weekly box of pre-portioned ingredients and step-by-step recipes to get to cooking. I know Bobby's had it, and you guys, the food's legit. It's better
Super
than what you're
fresh.
gonna figure out on your own. Like if you're a bachelor out there and you just don't want to cook, but you want to maybe like start that. At some point, guys, we do have to grow up a little bit. We still have to start cooking things, and I think HelloFresh is a good
Enough with the
introduction.
apps. Those stupid
Exactly.
apps on your phone. You're like $50 to get
Oh my God.
McDonald's.
We're not even going to say their names because they're such a ripoff. And it's bad. It's getting worse too. So go to HelloFresh.com/CLNS free and use the code CLNS free for free breakfast for life. That's one breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/CLNS free with code CLNS free. America's #1 meal kit. Secondly, guys, we have one more great sponsor that I want to pull up here as my computer crawls through. FanDuel.
The chat's mad I brought up Grant. I didn't even bring up Grant. I brought up the Grant
You
TP.
did say his name, though. You said his name, and that is enough to get everybody fired up. You said Grant's name.
Oh man.
You said, who else did you say?
Mike
You
Muscala.
said Muscala's name.
Muscala.
You said Cornette's name. You're batting 1,000 to get people pissed off tonight, Bob.
Hey, how about that tip by Cornette real quick?
It
What
didn't
a
go
play
in,
that
Bobby.
would've been.
It did not go in.
It was a good play though.
It was a great call. Great call. And it was, I mean,
I got Bobby on Cornette cam right now.
How you
Sherrod.
enjoying those snacks down there, Sherrod?
wonderful.
I didn't know.
But where are my lemon squares?
Yeah, they're there. They're
I
there.
got everything
there
but my lemon
somewhere.
squares.
And
Yeah.
that was talking Cornette. Now I'm going to talk to you guys. Oh, that's not it. Jesus. Now look at me. Now look at me, Bob. You got me all over. Okay. FanDuel. Guys, the NFL season has concluded, but the playoffs are upon us. And what better way to get involved than to fire up a little betting, right? So you want to go to FanDuel.com/Boston. All you have to do is place a $5 bet. You don't even have to win it. You can be as bad of a gambler as I am and just lose all of your bets, and you'll still get $150 in bonus bets that you can use for the. We got a nice football playoff slate coming up. We've got an NBA. Obviously, NBA games are going strong. I guess you just want to.
National championship live right now.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the Pacers had taken clearly the officials in tonight's game had bet on the Pacers for this one. So maybe they did their $5 bet on the Pacers, and that's why this game ended the way it did. I want to make sure I hit the points here. So right now, again, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose, easy to use and fun to play. You can do live same game parlays, find bets in the new Explorer tab, make a parlay. People love the parlays, and there's a national championship game on it.
Yeah,
Do you know the score of that game? What's the score of that game?
20-13 Michigan.
Okay, that's a fun one. Maybe a little live bet on that one. Get your bet in.
I have Washington 5.5, Jimmy, on FanDuel.
I do too, actually, Bobby.
I like that number.
We're
a lot.
riding together. It looked kind of sketchy to start, but it looks like Washington's righted the ship a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, that's That's $150 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet. And let's put this up here on the screen for everybody to see. You can just read the fine print there. Be 21 plus and present in select states. All that good stuff. You guys get the gist of it. Anyways, let's reset here a little bit, guys.
Jimmy had to lean in to see that.
Yeah,
You're
I had to.
touchdown.
That wasn't happening, but we're gonna have to blow that screen up. But
Sherrod, I want to circle back to the trade stuff here.
hold on.
because
You want to talk trades right now? Can we let's put the trade stuff
we
on.
put a bow in the game.
Yeah, let's put a bone. I just want to bring us back around, and then we'll go back to the trades. But again,
Okay.
Amit's got a couple of things here. We were talking about Haliburton's injury tonight.
Oh man.
Just a quick recap. He went down in the second quarter. He slipped on the floor. He did like a split that no guy wants to do. And unfortunately, needed to be carried off. So
it looked nasty.
You talk about Pacers in the playoffs. It's probably going to hinge on the severity of that injury. So he's going to have an MRI. They're saying if it's a grade 1, it's about a 1 to 2 week recovery. Grade 2, 4 to 8, and grade 3. Nobody wants to hear grade 3. That's 12 plus weeks, and it could mean surgery if the tear is off the bone. We're talking about a hamstring, a groin or whatever. So
hamstring tear is devastating.
Yeah.
The early indication there, obviously strain. They'll get the MRI. Didn't look good. Not being able to walk off looks awful.
Right.
But no
missed a little bit of time.
There.
And that wasn't even a worst injury of the night. Memphis, Ja Morant.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Out for the season.
Chat's been going wild on that one. So Ja Morant, torn labrum.
Labrum, shoulder. Yeah.
So that sucks for a Memphis team that was really starting to pick things up. I think they had a nice win. Was it last night? That's just sucks, man. I mean, obviously Morant
in the midst of an MVP level season
for Ja Morant.
For Haliburton.
Okay, right. So Ja Morant out for the year. Haliburton, we'll see. But yeah, it's tough news for the Grizzlies and Morant's had a tough go of things. Some of that obviously is self-inflicted, but this one, you never want to see a guy go down with an injury. No. So hopefully he makes a full recovery there. So that's kind of the injury updates from this one. Bobby, I don't know if you've been able to find any quotes floating around Twitter. I know that Buddy Hield, according to Jared Weiss, a tweet, he says, Buddy Hield wouldn't share what he told Joe Mazzulla, but said that he made some contact with Jaylen Brown, yet the officials and replay center made the decision. Now, Amit's got his tinfoil hat on, I think, right now, and he's poking us a little bit. He's sending me info on James Williams, who is the referee that overturned the call on this one. Apparently, James Williams went to high school in Indiana, Sherrod.
Oh, boy.
Purdue graduate, Sherrod. So there's a lot of people wondering if there's a little bit of favoritism here. And here's the most damning stat of all. Okay, and this is where FanDuel, I wish I knew this and had jumped on FanDuel before I knew this stat. The Pacers are now, this is according to Amit, so if I'm wrong here, everyone find him. The Pacers are now 35-3 with James Williams as the head referee in the last 5 years. That is a hell of a record, Sherrod. 35-3? They haven't been that good over the last 5 years.
No.
What's going on here, Bobby? I'm full conspiracy right now. I'm full conspiracy right now.
You are, and I'm not. I'm not.
Sherrod, these are all facts. Everything.
Are you sure? They're 35-3.
According to Amit, double check that, please, because that's a pretty wild stat.
You know what? Here's the deal. We already went through it. They put themselves in that position by playing poorly all night, and
they were hosed.
One of the refs, they Hield hit the ball before he hit Brown's head there. And as Sherrod said earlier, Jimmy,
according to the refs, what about according to your eyeballs?
Was it a devastating foul?
What does that mean?
He blocked the ball and then follows through and hits his head.
That's not exactly what happened. He went up and his arm hit his head at the same time that the ball was hit.
So did it impact the shot in
Who
extraordinary
cares?
fashion?
It doesn't matter.
For me, yeah. For me, I don't care about that because it was look. We're going to see the 2-minute report, and there's a high probability they're going to say, "Oops, we got that call wrong," which means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme then or now. The bottom line is the Celtics, they shouldn't have put themselves in that position. They should have been better than that because they are the best team in the NBA, and they need to show that on nights like this, even when they're at less than full strength. And they didn't. They put themselves in to allow something like this to inject itself into the conversation. Because if they're up by 5 or 4 at that point in the game, yeah, it's a bad call, but it's not gonna factor heavily in the outcome. It becomes more of a speed bump along the road. So that to me is just find a way to get over this. You can't allow these type of things to consume you. If you're the Celtics, you deal with it. You put yourself in that position. Be better. Make sure
you could have went down the other side of the court and gotten a stop and went to overtime.
Yeah.
Amit's backtracking on his record stat, 35-3. He's totally backtracking on that. So they might not have been 35-3. That did seem ridiculous. But
well, Jimmy, you can issue the.
It's an Amit. We need to get Amit on here for an apology cam. If Amit was schooled, then we need to get him on here for an apology cam. But I still believe that this guy was.
Well, now you set off the chat that was already angry enough.
I still believe that he went to high school in Indiana, so that's enough for me to say conspiracy.
Well, he's from Indiana, but I think he spent time in like Memphis.
I don't care where he freaking hangs his hat.
Well, you sort of do because we were having this conversation.
I'm trying to figure out how the hell he made that call. There's got to be a reason behind it. He's got to be a Pacers fan or something. Nothing else makes sense to me.
Jimmy, the other thing I found interesting about this game was just the chippiness of it, and
I like that.
We're looking forward to the end of the month. Obviously, that was Buddy trolling Joe a little bit. Wasn't it interesting? There was some animosity.
What do you mean Buddy was trolling Joe? Go on?
By telling him he followed him.
Oh.
Yeah, just being like, we got away with that one. But beyond that, you saw Nembhard chirping at Joe during the game. And then Isaiah Jackson tried to fight Luke Cornett after a post-up play. And Luke just kind of walked away. So there was some tension on that Indiana side. Obviously, Nesmith, his normal, inspired approach against the Celtics there. Some big plays from him throughout this game. I mean, Indiana gets up for this matchup. There's no doubt about it. And it just feels like these two teams are on a collision course with the playoffs. They're going to play again at the end of the month for the fourth and fifth final time here. So another one's coming down the road in a couple of weeks here. And the Indiana, hopefully they'll have Haliburton for that one, but they just continue to challenge the Celtics in a pretty unique way. One that was pretty similar to how the Thunder challenged them last week. So these are two teams emerging with styles that can bother the Celtics here. And I know the chat's pretty upset about Sherrod, but if you want to get on Joe for another thing in this game, they played big for a lot of it. Those Hornet and Horford combinations on the bench, Horford and Porzingis to start and close the game. Those weren't great duos for the Celtics against what the Pacers were doing on the other side. Even with Jalen Smith out there, I mean, he was taking it to Horford at times.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Joe, if we're being honest and candid, has more trust in his bigs than he does his non-rotational wings and guards. And
that's why Brad said what he said the other day, right? Need another wing.
And he's right. I mean, you have at this point we're almost halfway through this season, and there's still trust issues with some guys near the end of the bench. And it's not because Joe doesn't like them or believe in them. It's just that they're just not that good. They haven't been good all season. And even when they've been given opportunities like tonight to showcase what they can do, they come up short. This was a golden opportunity for Svi to have a career night. And Ben, look, Ben, I think is a nice kid.
He's running out of time.
I just don't think he's an NBA player. To be I think back to some of the comments that Nick Nurse made about him, early on, which was very telling. I don't know what it is that Joe sees in him other than the fact that I need a warm body to get out there on the floor who can run in offense.
What about Lamar
That
Stevens?
seems to be what it is. I mean, to be honest.
Lamar, that's the mystery one to me. I
They
don't know
just
what
won't play him.
Well, there's just something that we don't know, that we're not seeing, that justifies in Joe's mind and the mind of that coaching staff why to keep this guy on the bench. Because when he plays, he's not perfect, but his athleticism and his energy, he looks like a guy that if you're looking for a guy to give you something defensively at the wing position and can maybe play a little bit bigger, he's a guy. But that's not happening.
They want to play a lot of zone in this one too, which Banton's used to. And again, that first stint for him was just so bad that they couldn't go back to him. And then, going to Svi, like I mentioned, Jimmy, you're coming in the fourth quarter. I know Scal was hitting on this. It's a tough position to play your first minutes at the start of the fourth quarter in a close game, especially when you typically don't play.
And that's why I lean Joe in my blame pie, and I know you guys kind of did too, but I just thought there were some weird rotation decisions. I thought the timeout, again, at the end of the game,
that lineup to start the fourth was pretty staggering.
It was wild. In a close game against a team that can score 10 points within 15 seconds, you kind of put your guys behind in that situation, and they had to claw back. Good for them for doing it. But if we're going to give Jaylen Brown criticism, we should give Joe Mazzulla criticism because they had a timeout to use. Celtics get the ball back on that Pacers miss. Why didn't they call a timeout right off the bat? Draw something up.
Good point.
We're criticizing the players for, freestyling out there, but there's Joe Mazzulla on the sideline as he's been doing for the last 2 seasons now with timeouts that apparently he's saving for another, like a rainy day. I don't know. Draw something up, call a timeout, get your guys together on the same page, drop a play for Sherrod's guy, Derek White, if that's who should be getting the ball. But they have options on this team to just give the ball to Jaylen Brown and say, do your thing. They're better than that. They don't need to do that. They have other opportunities to score, whether it's Porzingis, whether it's White. Holiday was hitting shots tonight. He had one of his best offensive nights. Aside from his boneheaded, I don't know what the guy thought when he thought he could dunk from the free throw line. That was the only criticism I have for Holiday tonight. And that was a fourth quarter turnover.
By the way, I want to just show this. I'm not going to play the video here, but look at how this play starts. I mean, you have 3 guys on Jaylen, and White is just screaming for the ball.
Right.
And as you mentioned, Jimmy, they have a timeout there to use in that spot.
This is
so
Joe,
this is what
I call scramble mode, Bobby.
If you're Joe right here, you could call a timeout and reset.
Well, I think right here, if you're Joe, you're thinking he's going to swing it to the wide open guy.
Or that, right.
Because if he swings it to Derek has really 3 options. Either step into a 3, step into a 3 dribble drive, swing it to your left, and then that leads to an Al Horford. Is that that's Al Horford in the corner.
Porzingis. Yeah. Who do you have there? You have
Porzingis and
Porzingis and Horford. Yeah.
So if you swing it to Derek White, he's either going to take the shot or he's going to make the assist or the hockey assist. That's what's going to happen.
Hey, look at is that someone in there is ignoring Horford. So I mean, they just stacked the deck against Jaylen.
Yeah.
Carlisle was just like, everybody get in there and just load up again.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Bobby, it's like everybody knows what's going to happen,
Right.
I mean, he swings it to Derek. I mean, that's you're going to get it. Jaylen took a tough shot when you could have swung it and got a great shot. Great shot.
Right.
Because either Derek is going to shoot that, Porzingis is going to shoot it, or Al's going to shoot it. But one of those 3 guys is going to have a great look.
And it goes back to decision making. It goes back to communication. It goes back to coaching. Have the guys with that mindset on the final play. You should know it. If you're not going to call a timeout, it should be because the guys already know.
Right.
Make the right play, Jimmy. They say that all the time. And it's not
sometimes
the right play.
Sometimes you as a coach have to make the right play and call a timeout, which is the right play.
Yes.
Sometimes that has to be the right play. When you can't, it's sometimes you can't assume that these great, phenomenal talents see what you see as a coach. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you've got to actually sit their asses down and say, okay, look, timeout. We need to get a really good shot here. Let's draw something up.
They clearly weren't organized there. And
no.
This is going to be the debate, Jimmy, going into the playoffs. I think I asked it last game, the level of faith you have in Joe here. This is a team that sometimes I think needs a little bit more of a pull from the sideline, a little bit more structure in these moments, especially. And he just seems too conditioned to let it roll out. I mean, remember game 3, I think, of the Philly series last year, Sherrod?
Mhm.
They just let the play run, and they don't even get a shot off at the end of that game. And I know they learned later with the white play to end game 6, they ended up getting a shot off there out of a timeout. But
Think about this, Bobby.
you know who they are at this point.
Bobby, when was the last time we had a conversation about a Joe Mazzulla ATO?
We haven't.
And
he does have some good ones, but nothing that catches your eye.
He's had some good ones, but he hasn't done that nearly enough to where it's, when you think about some of the things that are strengths of his, that doesn't come to mind. And it doesn't come to mind because we don't see it. And to me, that's part of what you as a coach should be able to do. The guy across from him, Rick Carlisle, hell of an ATO guy. Mm-hmm. Rick's one of those coaches. Sometimes he will call a timeout like after his team is down 4-0 to start a game because he's sensing that this 4-0 run is about to become a 10-0 run because my guys, they need to reset and recalibrate, and I need to get their minds right. Joe, he's a player's coach, but sometimes you need to be a coach and not just a player's coach. And sometimes I think Joe gets a little too comfortable.
It's the rigidness, Sherrod. They do good stuff all game. Again, they did a lot of nice stuff in this game to put themselves in position to win late, but you squander it with some late game execution issues. And again, to go back to the game as a whole, it's the defense that cost them this one tonight.
Right. Absolutely.
But on that play specifically, the last 2 plays, they did not execute well in those spots.
Yeah, Joe, he just needs to get, I think, a little bit better in getting a better pulse for when he needs to take the reins and just say, look, this is what we're going to do. I know this is what you've been doing, what's been working, but we kind of need very specific things to happen down the stretch. Like we need to get great shots in the last minute of play. And you attacking their defense with 3 defenders just sitting, waiting for you, that ain't a great shot. Particularly if you swing it up top and we got literally 3 different guys that will have, one of the 3 will have an opening look.
And again, I know the chat's like, Jimmy, we said in the chat before they even reversed the call. What was he doing there? So it wasn't about the foul call or the reversal or anything like that. We said from the start, even before they overturned it, that wasn't great. Even when it looked like it was about to turn into 2 free throws potentially for the game right there.
Right. So you have to compartmentalize both things. You have to be able to say, okay, it wasn't a good decision to dribble into that, corner, basically baseline, and you kind of had blinders on in that situation. Got lucky with the call and then got unlucky with the reversal. So a lot of things happened, but you don't have to like any of it. Now, one thing I will disagree a little bit with you guys is, you guys say, oh, they shouldn't have put themselves in that position. I actually thought that overall, and again, aside from that third quarter stretch, I thought they played pretty good basketball as a team tonight. What are you laughing at over there?
The Jalen comment
quotes coming in.
Okay, yeah. So we got Jaylen Brown is now speaking. What do you got quotes from? Here's a tweet from Jared Weiss. Jaylen Brown, I think he obviously hit me in the head. We definitely can do some investigation. That's what I'm gonna say. I've never heard head is part of the ball.
Wow.
And then he said the ref told him that he did not get hit in the head. So I don't know what the ref was watching if he says Jaylen Brown didn't get hit on the head, but good for Jaylen Brown for actually saying something. And then again, from Adam Himmelsbach, I know I got hit in the head. I think that needs to be investigated. It cost my team the game, and I'm pissed about it. Take that, Bobby. You don't think that cost them the game? Well, Jaylen Brown says, I disagree. It did cost us the game. So,
well, who's going to investigate it?
Well, luckily, we have the last 2-minute report will come out tomorrow for the investigation, which will do absolutely nothing and change.
It's going to be
nothing.
Thorough.
Right. But
listen, calls go against you, and it is shocking, right, Jimmy? Because The call on the four.
Don't loop me in with this. Don't loop me in. You're
Jimmy,
on an
come
island.
here, Jimmy. Come
Yeah,
here.
right, Jimmy? Right. Oh no, you're on Bobby Island right now with Cornette.
The
And
call,
limit squares.
the call on the four was foul. And that should be the benefit of the doubt in that situation. There's no clear indication. Obviously, that's what they're going to say, Jimmy. They're going to say they didn't see contact to the head there.
We saw contact to the head. I wish
Right.
I would replay
I'm
it,
with
but
you.
I think it would probably get like removed from YouTube if we did it. But everyone needs to just go on Twitter and rewatch that last play. And it's very clear that Buddy Hield's forearm makes contact with Jaylen Brown's head. I've seen way less contact called the foul, Sherrod, especially in a review situation. Again, if they missed it live and there wasn't a review, you throw your hands up and say, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of contact there, but what are you going to do? They called it a foul and then reviewed it, saw that it was a foul, and then overturned it. That's the part that I can't wrap my head around. That's what's driving everybody crazy, and that's what almost had Scal jumping over the
That's not how it
podcast.
should go, right? Yeah, if you have a call on the floor and there's inconclusive evidence, you stick with the call on the floor. And, you know, across sports, I feel like there should be like a clock that if it hits a number on the clock and you don't have a call by then, it just stands.
Right.
So it's a very strange one. I get why people
It's
are upset
almost
about
like
this
they
one.
just they didn't look at his head. It's almost like they were just focused on whether or not a hand hit the ball. And it's like they just failed to look at the other half.
But according to
of his
Jalen,
arm.
they're saying that they didn't see it hit the head. And yeah, maybe they weren't paying attention to that, Jimmy. Maybe they weren't reviewing for that, and they just looked at the hand.
Right.
That would be the explanation, right? That they weren't looking at
That's
his
all
head,
all I can possibly think. So, anyways, you know, we had again, I don't want there was more to this game, but this is what the players care about. This is what the coaches care about. This is what
No, I get it in this case.
even the opponents are talking about it. So it's not something that's just going to go away.
It's not often you hear the opponent say we got away with one.
Right, like as they're walking off.
I'm watching the replay on X right now from someone who posted it, and you can see, like, literally, you can see Jalen's head move.
Yeah, he might have a bump. He might actually have a bump. If I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm walking around with an ice pack right now. I'm doing the Paul Pierce, Sherrod.
Because you can see, you can see, and that's why Jalen was so confident, because you literally see when his forearm comes across his head, the head tilts to the left.
Yep. If I'm Jaylen Brown, and this is very petty, but I'm a petty. I'm rolling up to the interview with a big ice pack on my head, like when Paul Pierce did it against the Pacers too. I think that was against the Pacers. Remember when Paul? This was probably
same ref.
Yeah.
This was before Sherrod. This is before Sherrod was covering the Celtics. I think he was in Detroit, but way back in the early years, Paul Pierce got hit in the head. It wasn't
him and Al Harrington used to go at it. Yeah.
And he showed up to the press conference with like a wrap around his head and just made a big ordeal about the fact that he got screwed out of a call. I think that's what Jaylen Brown should have done, but it's you know,
it is what it is.
It's sour grapes, I guess now, but it's still something that you know, we're going to be talking about. And again,
on to the next one.
3 biggest issues from tonight.
Go.
Free throws, ability to slow the game down, as we talked about, Jimmy, and execute in the half court. And then on top of that, your depth.
Well, to me, late game execution was for me, that was one of the bigger takeaways. They just didn't. They didn't make the smart plays when they needed to make them.
But those
control too.
But before that Sherrod, I mean, it was a 3-point shootout. Shots were falling. It was a great, you know, final stretch of minutes there that unfortunately is overshadowed by the way it ended. But that's why I'm like a little hesitant to say, oh, like they shouldn't have been in that position. I give Indiana a ton of credit for playing the way they played, and I don't necessarily think that was a Celtics issue. I do think that there was a little bit of a stretch where the Celtics didn't come out as hard as they needed to in that third quarter. And that's been a pattern, I think, a little bit for them. Maybe they thought that they could run away with it with Haliburton out. But once McConnell went into that game, and I was surprised when they took McConnell out, I was surprised it took him so long to bring him back in the fourth, because what he did for them was just almost in a way mimic Haliburton's up-tempo style. I mean, McConnell was
It
just
caught them off guard. There's no doubt about
I mean,
it.
he was racing up and down the. He was just laying. It was the layup drill for McConnell at times. He
And
was
he's so
blowing
good
by
defensively. Remember
Porzingis.
that stretch where they had I forget who it was, Holiday. They had him like tumbling back to half court with ball pressure, and he got
Yeah,
the back court call
that was
there.
the turnover there. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
I think he definitely caught them off guard, and that was a great coaching move on
he's
their
really
end.
good. I mean, there's been some teams around the league.
Underrated.
I know the Suns were super into him a year or two ago, and I'm sure there was interest elsewhere in him.
I always wanted the Celtics to go for him. I thought that it might happen, but it's too late now. But a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But he's just been one of those guys. That's his game. I mean, when he gets that ability, when he was on the Sixers, that was his game. You know, like he's just all over the place.
And again, let's put this in perspective. Celtics come out of this one loss with Tatum down, feeling bad about a call. The Pacers come out of this not knowing if their best player is going to be back anytime soon. So that's just a killer for them. This was really becoming a fun back and forth to start this season. Obviously, they played in the tournament. I hope he's okay. I hope we see this matchup in the playoffs. It'd be really fun. That crowd tonight was great. And they just continue to play great games, going back to last year. So to see if Haliburton goes down and that team struggles to keep it together the rest of the way, this is tough. But, we'll wait and see what the prognosis is on that injury. I did want to ask you before we get out of here, Sherrod, though, does tonight make you feel any more like this team needs to make a move? And what type of move are you looking at with the deadline a month away here?
It doesn't make me feel any more wanting them or expecting them to make a move because they didn't play with Tatum, didn't play with Sam. And whatever move you make, you're not going to get someone that could fill the void if you don't have Sam or Tatum around. So, no, it doesn't make me any more, bullish on them shaking things up a little bit. But I think Brad understands that you want to stack the deck as much as you can with as much talent as you can that can play the roles that you understand or that you feel you need to have in order to win a championship. And so they will continue to look for that big wing. But that big wing is not, I don't think, necessarily going to be someone who can go out there and get you 25 points because those big wings are not available. I think it's going to be someone that's a little bit more on the defensive side of things who can make an open jump shot. I think that's what you're looking for. Someone who can come in there and give you some minutes at that 3-4 spot, maybe a little 2 guard, who can defend and make an open jump shot.
You know who you're describing, Sherrod? And it's pertinent with Morant just going down. If Memphis falls out of this, I think John Conchar is a really good fit here.
Yeah, he can work. That's who he is. That's his game.
He does all the things you just mentioned.
Take, Bobby?
He fits the TP. He's signed for multiple seasons. A first?
Hell no. I'm not giving no damn first round pick for him.
We forgot Bobby doesn't give a rat's ass about draft.
But what else are you gonna offer, Sherrod?
You get it first.
If that's a first round, it's got to be one of those conditional ones that becomes like a couple of second round picks if it doesn't fall within a certain range. That I can live with, but I'm not. No. A first round pick for a guy that might be your ninth rotation guy.
Well, what'd they give up for?
What the hell are you talking about, man?
It's 2 seconds, right?
Damn it, Bobby.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Damn it, Bobby. I should tangle you after that.
No.
First round pick for a guy that half the leagues, half of the NBA fans have probably never heard of.
Jimmy, do not do that, Jimmy. No.
I'm not going to, but he's testing.
2 or 3 seconds then?
Testing me.
Yeah, I could. No, 2 most.
Dude,
3, hell no.
You can have all the seconds. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure that they matter now because of like salary cap purposes and all that shit.
Maybe 2.
They do need their first. You're right. They got to hold on to their first if they can. But again, beyond Brissett, who we'll see. He's who he is. He's showing a little something right now, but you're right. He is what he is. There's nothing below those guys. I know people keep kicking around Walsh. That's not happening this year. He hasn't.
I like to keep Kata. I'd like to keep Kata. Figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah, and he's, they look at him as the 4th guy right now, unless they were going to move on from Luke. And then, you got your Shvees and Bantons, and Lamar doesn't seem like he's part of this mix right now. So you're going down to Brissett in terms of who this team trusts. And once you get beyond that, the bench hasn't developed enough trust in terms of you. No. And again, we're nitpicking now, and something catastrophic would have to happen to get to this point. But the Svi, Banton, Lamar portion of this bench hasn't proven itself enough to be able to, contribute. And, Jimmy, you could potentially, if you see a buyout guy you like, trade 2 or 3 of those guys just to offset the money for a guy like Conchar if you're not going to use those guys anyway. And then you can go out and get a buyout guy.
That's what I think happens.
Yeah, all that has to happen is that guy makes less than $12 million, and old friend Kelly Olynyk, as well as Chris Boucher, who's probably not a buyout guy, but Kelly Olynyk in the last year of his deal, he fits the bill.
Yeah.
And he obviously, when we talked to him the other day, sounded like he was interested in a reunion. So would Danny help them out and bail him out, let him go to the Celtics? That'd be a real impact scoring upgrade on the bench, wouldn't it, Sherrod?
But you have to understand and remember we're talking about Danny. And so you're willing, like you're open to giving up a first round pick. Danny's gonna want 3 for Kelly or something insane like that.
But he's an expiring deal, which makes it a little different than it was a year ago.
You think Danny cares about that? Come on.
I don't know Danny to ever buy out an expiring guy. That's for sure.
You mentioned the Grizzlies, Bobby, and I think it's safe to say that without Morant, they're dead in the water this year.
Plus Adams, plus Clark.
Right, they were already banged up to begin with. Morant gave them a nice little run there, and they were going to be a tough out if anything.
Mm.
With Morant out, and they traded for Marcus Smart for a reason, thinking that pair him with Morant, get a little bit of a winning culture in there, make a run at things. That's not happening this year. And I guess my question is, does Marcus Smart become a hot commodity at the trade deadline? Not talking about Celtics, but just around the league. Could there be a situation where he finds himself back in the Eastern Conference on a contending team because all of a sudden the Grizzlies are selling, and he's a guy that I think a lot of playoff teams or fringe playoff teams or contenders would add to that mix and give you that same thing that the Grizzlies thought they were going to get for their team, hard-nosed player, defense intensity, plays hard, wants to win, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to go over all the things, but is this now a situation where the Celtics could find themselves playing against an old friend in the playoffs? Maybe.
I can't see it. They'd have to get blown away, and I don't think anyone's blowing them away.
There's one team that stands out to me that could use a defensive player, and I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Miami?
No. Better.
Philly? Bucks?
Yes, Bucks.
Yeah, Bucks have nothing to offer. They'd have to be blown away, and the Bucks certainly aren't blowing them away with Bobby Portis or whatever they'd be giving up in that deal. You think
picks?
Of Philly?
What about picks?
Yeah, they don't have picks. Philly give up all their picks.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So Bucks can't make any upgrades. They might get a buyout guy, but we always know how that goes. It's someone in.
So you said Heat. Were the Heat an option?
Heat do have some stuff.
He
to
needs
offer.
Shooting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do they need another Marcus Smart guy for?
No, the Heat wouldn't be able to blow them away. Philly wouldn't be able to blow them away, I don't think, unless they really target that guy. Wouldn't that be something if Smart ended up on Philly?
Philly, man, Maxey and Smart.
Ooh.
That would be weird. We thought it was weird seeing Horford in a Philly jersey. But no, I mean, Sherrod, how do you look at it? Because they're going to want to run this back next year with everybody.
I think Memphis is just going to take a red shirt, call it a red shirt year, and just get a high draft pick this year, and just run it back and see what because they still have no idea what their full complement of players looks like. And I think that they haven't seen enough of Marcus Smart to feel as though this will work. In fact, in the small snapshot we saw with Marcus and Ja playing together, they look pretty damn good. So I think you'll see them. I think you'll see them run it back. I think they'll listen certainly to offers. But to your point, Bobby, I think someone would have to come with some look, we want Marcus and we're going to give you 2 first-round picks and we'll give you a player swap on another pick, first-round pick in another year. And something like that is
especially since they gave up Tyus Jones and 2 firsts to get him.
Right.
So they paid a hefty sum to get him. They'd have to be blown away in terms of future assets to turn back on that. Plus, I don't think they're in the business of looking to the future now. They have to start to think about how can they make this work in the near term heading into next year, because this is just a tough year for them to lose here. This really looked like the year where they were going to build on the 2 seed last season and
I
the
thought they
playoff
were
trip
the
they've made. And
they were the team that they were my surprise team of the year, the team that no one was talking about that could make some noise because of the success they had last year. And you added defensive, pests like Marcus to the mix. It made a lot of sense that they would be a problem for teams. But obviously the injuries, it's just
they have some
too much for them.
questions.
Yeah.
They have some questions. I could see them doing a bunch of stuff, but Smart trade, I can't see it. And of course, the Celtics can't trade for him because they gave him up in the same year. So
Right.
you can cross that off the list.
Not happening. Yeah, let's not start that talk up. Anything else, guys, about this game? We've gone for an hour 20. I'm sure you guys want to wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Move on to Timber Pups, who are no longer the Timber Pups. They're Wolves, man. Big badass Wolves at this point.
That's a
They've
rematch.
been struggling a little bit recently, though, right? We'll look at their
Yeah.
recent scores here.
But they're still top three. They're still top three in the West.
And they gave the Celtics a lot of trouble in that game earlier in the year with their length and ability to throw multiple guys at both Tatum and Brown. When you think of Edwards, who was excellent in that game, and McDaniels, who's an all-defensive guy. Rudy, far, far away front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now. They're playing double big, so Celtics don't have a great advantage if that's a look they're going to there. You're going to want to be fully healthy for this game. If you're shorthanded here, Minnesota just has too much stuff to throw at you. And they lost to the Mavericks yesterday, beat up on the Rockets the game before that, lost to the Pelicans, lost to the Knicks. So they've lost 3 or 4 coming into this one. And they actually play tomorrow in Orlando. So they're coming into Boston on a back-to-back.
Yep.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, it's a tough stretch for them. It's a tough stretch for the Celtics because then they got the Bucks the next night, Thursday, right? So
I will be there, Jimmy.
Pacers, Timber Pups, and Bucks. You're going to be in Milwaukee?
Yep, flying to Chicago,
your
taking
return.
the train up.
Your old stomping grounds. You and Joe Sway had some fun out there last playoffs.
Milwaukee, 2 playoffs ago. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, 2 ago. They all run together now.
They do.
But,
they do.
Yeah, a couple of big games coming up here. So, are you any concern for Tatum? Didn't play tonight. I know, Bobby, you kind of hung on to what Missoula said.
Yeah, and Missoula is not great with the medical update, so he might have misspoke here. But he said pregame Tatum had a severe ankle sprain, and he played through it. And it was weird how it lingered. He certainly needed a couple off games at this point. It hurt in that Sacramento game, I want to say, right after the Warriors game where he suffered it. So it's a little while ago that he suffered that now at the beginning of that West Coast trip. It's mid-December. We're talking January 8th now, still dealing with the effects of it. So, you know what you always say, Sherrod, take a little time off here if you need it.
Yeah.
Like, don't just keep pushing through it. The team can clearly get by, as you saw tonight.
This is the time to do it. Better to take off now than take off in April.
And you know he's not skipping the All-Star game.
Well, hell no. That's not happening. Tatum will get that check. And play well.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So that'll do it. Once again, we want to thank our great sponsors, FanDuel. Again, guys, don't forget, you can do a $5 bet and you can get $150 in bonus bucks when you go to FanDuel.com/Boston. And then HelloFresh, go to HelloFresh.com/CLNS free. Use code CLNS free and get breakfast for life. That is going to do it for us. Oh, yeah, we're not going to talk about it, but no big Patriots news today. So we're on a wait and see mode there to see what goes on with the Pats. But just definitely keep it locked on CLNS, whether it's Celtics, Patriots. We're going to be going live at the moment anything happens, one way or the other with the Patriots.
Press pass is where
Yes, exactly. Patriots press pass. John Zanis will be on there with Taylor.
He's outside Gillette right now, I think.
Yeah, is he just ready to go? Love it. That's the John we know. Back
Michigan
here,
about to get the natty.
Michigan's about to get the natty. So, if Michigan fans will be insufferable for a while, as they usually are. Back here,
Michigan players on the Celtics? I don't think so, right?
No.
Yeah. I mean, Al's from Michigan, but he's a Gator.
Yeah, he's a Gator. He's a Gator. Tom Brady. It's the only guy I can think of that matters. Yeah. But back here, Celtics fall 133-131. Nuts and bolts. We got screwed by the refs tonight in the final plays of this game. We're not going to be forgetting about that.
On to the Timberwolves.
But we will rise onto the Timberwolves Wednesday. We will be back here after the game, so make sure you guys come on back and hang out with us. Again, I'm Jimmy. That's Bobby. That's Sherrod. Thank you guys, and we will see you Wednesday.